Hi, this is Abe Freetanzer from cinemadailyus.com, and I'm thrilled to be speaking with Emily Mortimer about The Pursuit of Love. How are you today, Emily?
I'm good, thank you, Abe. How are you?
Good, good. What first appealed to you about this project, and how did you hear about it?
I was just approached by the producers of the project who had got the rights to the novel, and they asked me if I would be willing to adapt the book and to write a pilot for a sort of 3-part or 4-part series. And I said I'd read the book again. I had loved the book as a child, and I thought I'd read it again, but I was a bit sort of dubious. I didn't think maybe the world needed another costume drama set in sort of nice houses in the English countryside. But I read the book again, and I just absolutely fell madly back in love with it, and felt very much that the world could do with a dose of Nancy Mitford's kind of humor and satire and actually heart. And she grapples with, you know, all the thorny issues of what it is to be alive and what it is to be in love and how to love and whether there is such a thing as true love and what it is to be a woman and all of it. But and also about politics and the very polarized. She was writing at a time just after the Second World War, a very deeply polarized politics, not unlike ours today, where even her own family was divided down the middle. Some of them were fascists and some of them were communists. And Linda's love life acts as a sort of political satire on the, you know, that she goes from a fascist banker to a communist activist in her men, and realizes they're both as kind of self-involved as each other. And so there was something about the scope of it and the kind of the epic journey that Linda takes us on through her kind of relationships with men that felt very relevant to today. And again, yeah, that Nancy was writing at a time like ours, just after the Second World War, where, you know, she had been through a moment where nobody knew quite whether the people they loved or indeed themselves were going to live or die. And that felt, you know, strikingly similar to this moment, and a good moment to explore those questions, whether it's not better to live as if there is no tomorrow, because there might not be no tomorrow, or whether it's better to be a bit more observant and calm and considered in one's approach.
And what was it like to make your directorial debut?
It was amazing. I loved it. I mean, I felt very, I mean, you know, after the fact it's daunting, and before the fact it's extremely daunting. It's daunting bringing it out into the world and hoping people are going to like it. It's terrifying thinking you're about to start it, because I'd never done anything like that before, and I didn't know if I could. But at the moment of doing it, I felt so happy and so engaged. And part of the reason I think is that there was literally no time to think. Like, you don't have any time to think as a director, so you don't have time to sort of ask yourself all those difficult questions, like whether or not you know what you're doing or whether or not people are going to like it. You're just in the thick of it, trying to just tell the story the best way possible and communicate the story to people. And I really loved that feeling.
That's great. And you get to play one of the most fun roles too, as the bolter. What's your favorite part of that character?
I love that the bolter is treated as a heroine, even though she's kind of an objectionable person who's sort of a very bad mother and a sort of ridiculous woman on one level, but yet has lived her life completely sort of unapologetically, and has, you know, in those days, if you wanted to have an exciting life as a woman, the only way you could have a life was through a man. So if you wanted to have more than one experience of life, you had to have more than one man. And yet that came at a heavy cost, because you were then judged as being a sort of, you know, a woman of easy virtue. So in order to be able to have that kind of adventurous life, you had to go out with, you know, marry lots of men, and you had to kind of armor yourself against the world's judgment by becoming this kind of absurd character who wears turbans and lots of eyeliner and bangles and sort of says ridiculous things. But I did really like being a I mean, I'm an older person now, so I hope that generations younger than me of women are less kind of I don't know, have less of a tendency to feel sort of like they've got to be good and behave nicely. And but I definitely have that. I definitely suffer from all that stuff. So to be able to play a character who doesn't give a shit about being good felt very liberating.
I enjoyed the short that was directed by your son that was part of the Within program at Tribeca. I'm curious, how true to life was that to your family's quarantine experience?
Oh, well, I think for Sam, very true to life. Yeah, I mean, I think it was a brilliant, it's so nice that you enjoyed it. I really think it's so great too. And I thought it was a brilliant insight into kind of what it was like to be a kid at that time, where to see your parents just losing their minds basically, and not being able to see your parents, who are these figures of sort of supposed kind of authority and sense, not being able to understand what was happening and responding in a very kind of sort of freakish and odd ways. I mean, obviously it was, I hope, slightly kind of, you know, I don't know, whatever the word is, heightened version of reality. But I think to Sam, it you know, it felt pretty probably very accurate, and I'm sure we both were absurd. Because we were definitely, what was happening felt absurd.
And you've given so many great performances over the course of your career. I think some of my favorites might be Match Point and Harry Brown and The Newsroom. Do you have any favorites from your career?
Oh, thank you. I think Lovely and Amazing is my favorite performance, because it was something that, it was the first time I really felt connected to a role, and I really felt like I was working with people who felt like I spoke their same language somehow. And it was, and the first time I did a performance in an American accent, and yeah, there was a moment where I had to stand stark naked in the middle of a room and have Dermot Mulroney critique my body from top to toe. And it was 3 minutes of sort of absolute hell, and yet at the same time I really felt like in that moment I was in the moment in a way that I'd never been before, or probably ever since. And it sort of, I was as vulnerable, as scared, as idiotic, as brave, as everything as the girl I was playing, and it was really exciting.
And what do you have coming up next?
Well, I'm writing a film for BBC Films, which I'm psyched to direct at a certain point, and then I'm also developing another television adaptation that I don't think I'm allowed to talk about yet, but I will let you know when I am.
That's wonderful. Well, I really appreciate you speaking to me, and everybody should watch The Pursuit of Love when it premieres on Amazon Prime Video on Friday, July 30th.
Thank you so much, Abe.
Thank you.